Okay, I think we're live. Let's see. Everybody just give us a minute while we set this up. Daryl, I see you that you're on both. Okay. All right, Daryl, you're on here twice. So one of them, yeah, you're gonna have to delete one of them.
I'm trying to delete my phone, but I don't see it. I'm trying to tell it to leave.
I think the other one is you on your phone.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can remove you.
So I'm trying to remove my phone.
Okay, I just removed you.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Chat. Can everybody see us? Let me see the chat. Everybody hear us and see us okay?
Oh, Denise, whoops.
Thank
Denise.
you. Yes.
So when, at the end, when people want to ask questions, what I was gonna ask them to do is to do the chat part rather than trying to unmute and talk.
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay.
Wonderful. Okay. Have you talked to Rodney?
Not today, but he probably got the wrong info. Hold on.
Okay, we're gonna be getting started shortly, y'all. Just give us 1 minute. We had a mix up with our links and Zoom. So we want to make sure that we have an expert from the SBDC. His name is Rodney Johnson. He's going to be talking about the business resources and all of the either like loans or grants or the CARE Act, all that to help your businesses. So he's going to be talking about that. So we are waiting for him to join us before we get started.
Hey, Denise.
Yes.
It's just 3 o'clock. So if you want to, I just sent him an email. And so I'm going to call him. So if you want to, you can kind of get started if you feel like there's enough people. But generally we kind of wait, 5 minutes or so.
Yes. So we're going to wait like 5 minutes before we get started. Try to get some people on our on here on the Zoom and on the live because we're also on Facebook Live. So if you're on Facebook and wanting to share this, you can share it as like a watch party on Facebook, so we can reach more people because there's a lot of great information, especially if you have a business. This is something that you would like to hear. So we'll be getting started in about 5 minutes. So thank you all for joining us today. So as more people are joining, I'm excited to get started. Here we go. He's on. So, okay, Rodney's on. Okay, y'all, so we're gonna get started in about 2 minutes at 3:05.
Rodney, we don't see your video.
All right, give me one second.
So I just asked you to start your video, so I should ask you. There we go. Hello, Rodney.
Hello.
How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm great. All right, so how we're gonna do this is that we're gonna wait until about 1 minute. We're giving people a chance to join us. We're on here on Zoom and on Facebook Live. So the way that it's going to be broken down is that we're going to do an intro, then the middle part would be the business resources, which you and Daryl will be going into, and then the last bit would be like Q&A to hear from our members and our community. So trying to see if we could wrap it up, have this meeting within like an hour, you know.
Okay.
And
so
yeah.
Daryl, do you have Daryl? I mean, when we talked last, you were going to be presenting some things and have me jump in when necessary, or is that still the game plan?
No, you're just going to present what you have, and then I just have a few items that are ancillary to what you're talking about. Okay. That's not specific to SBA, but it's Supreme Court stuff, Texas Supreme Court stuff. Some other
How long will I have to do this presentation?
Honestly, as long as you like. We're trying to keep the meeting to about an hour, but really, there's no time limit.
Okay, give me a second. I need to pull up the presentation. It'll take me a minute. So by the time you get through introductions and all of that, I'll have it ready to go.
Wonderful. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So all the people on the Zoom, there is a chat. So if you're having any questions, you can put it in the chat. We'll also have like the Q&A. So I know there's a feature for that if you want to put any questions on there during the presentation. Also, the people on Facebook Live, if you want to put it in the comment section, we'll make sure to hit those as well during the Q&A at the end. So welcome everybody. My name is Denise Babiche. I am the Membership Service Director for the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for joining us today. This is our first membership webinar that we're doing. We are trying to do more of these to keep engaged with our members and our community during these times. So the way that this webinar is going to be broken down into is 3 parts. The first part is just kind of a chamber intro, introduce ourselves, and then a few updates that we have. Then we'll be passing it on to Mr. Rodney Johnson, who is the director of the Small Business Development Center here in Fort Worth. Their office is located literally right across the hall from us, so they're our neighbors. And then at the end, we'll come back and do any Q&A questions and answers for you all. All right, so like I said, my name is Denise. My coworker here is Daryl. He's our Economic Development Manager. I'm gonna say hello, Daryl. And then we have Mr. Rodney Johnson. So a quick, what is it called? Updates from the chamber. So our office is closed. It's been closed since, I want to say like a couple, three weeks to several weeks now, like for 3 weeks now. For 2 weeks, sorry. Our office has been closed for about 2 weeks now. So we are working remotely for the most part. And, but just because our physical office is closed doesn't mean that we are not working for y'all. We are still trying to keep our members updated on all of the events that are happening, especially with all of the business resources with like the new state and federal either grants, loans, all of these things that have been being passed, as well as city policies and county policies that have to do with COVID-19. We're trying to keep our members updated as much as possible, especially with things that have been changing. Every other day, things are changing. They say one thing and then it's something else. So, we're just trying to keep y'all updated as much as possible. We actually do have a COVID-19 page on our website now. So if you go to our website, it is www.FWMBCC.org. So it's an acronym for Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce, is our website. So on the homepage, there is a COVID-19 banner. If you click on the banner, it'll take you directly to the COVID-19 page, where it will have all of the information and resources that we have for you all. So it's all of the new policies that are coming in, all of the updates from the county, state, federal, all that is on there. We also have a blog to keep y'all updated on a day-to-day basis. So please keep a lookout on that for any changes. Of course, we will direct you directly to those agency pages, just to make sure that you have the most updated version of what we have. So just wanted to give you that. But that's pretty much it. As part of the chamber and as membership, we do have a newsletter that we do, a monthly newsletter, but we're also doing like trying to do like weekly updates on these kinds of what is it called, updates. So not only are we doing the monthly, but we're doing more weekly emailing. So if you're not already subscribed to our mailing list, make sure you do that. You go to our website and you can, as soon as you go to our website, a little pop-up screen will pop up so that you can join our mailing list. Or if you have access to one of our newsletters, which should be on our Facebook, if you go to the newsletter at the top left-hand corner, it'll say subscribe. So subscribe to our mailing list. We send out a lot of great information and updates. And if you are not already following us, make sure to follow us on our social media, which is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our handle is FW Black Chamber. So that's FW Black Chamber. And that is all for me. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. At my email is last name's BABICHE @FWMBCC.org. And yeah. I'm going to go ahead and pass this along to my coworker, Daryl, so we can do the second half.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Daryl Brewer. I'm the Economic Development Manager for the Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce. We're happy that you took time out of your life, out of your day to come spend a little time with us, and we want to make it beneficial to you. The first thing I want to do is just run down some information that you may not be aware of. Excuse me, and then we'll go on to Mr. Rodney Johnson, who is one of the representatives from the SBA. So just want to give you a few things. Number one, almost everybody can apply for unemployment right now. If you've been laid off, of course you can apply. But if you're an independent contractor, you're a business owner, you can also apply for unemployment during this time. The federal government is setting aside like $600 a week for you, so go ahead and apply. I also saw something just today from the Texas Workforce Commission that says if you applied last week or 10 days ago, whatever, and you were denied, they say apply again. So apparently there's some, maybe it was a glitch or some issue, so they want you to go ahead and apply again. Hey, it can't hurt. Number two, the Supreme Court of Texas has stopped evictions from your home and from your apartment. I think that's just residential stuff. I don't think that's, it didn't specify, but I'm not sure if that's commercial, until May the 1st. Now, people may still put things on your door. You still may get letters, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But what's happening is the court proceeding in and of itself is stopped until May 1st. Okay, number three, there is a fund called the Red Backpack Fund, and it's giving away money, grants to women-owned businesses. And it looks like it's about $5,000 each. So what I want you guys to do is to email me if you're interested in more information on any of these things that we talk about, or Denise. Well, I have this information, and that's at D Brewer, which is DBREWER at FWMBCC.org. So D Brewer at Fort Worth Metropolitan Black Chamber of Commerce, not but Chamber of Commerce.org. We'll probably say that more than once. Also, there's a grant for artists. So if you are an artist and you are making your money by singing or playing an instrument or painting or what have you, there are grants out there for you as well. So again, just give us a contact us, and obviously you will be eligible for unemployment because you're an independent contractor. Fourth ISD is giving away free food for kids twice a day, and then also even on the weekend. So if you need that, we can provide that information to you. There's a list of feeding locations. Employers, if you don't want to lay off your people, but you know it's tight, you can lay them off either from 10 to 40%, and they can still receive partial unemployment benefits. So you can't lay them all off, but if you cut their hours up to like 40%, you can they can receive unemployment benefits. So therefore you can still use their services, and they can still get paid a little bit more money if, instead of you just laying them totally off. The Texas Utility Commission has stopped cutoffs for utilities as well. And that's not for everybody. There's certain segments that they're cutting them, that they're preventing that. So I would just check with the Texas Utility Commission and see if that applies to you. And finally, if you are a business and you have to collect sales tax, you're a retail establishment and you have to pay the comptroller every quarter, every month, or whatever your timetable is, they are willing to work with you in case you don't have all of their money. So again, I would ask you to contact the state comptroller's office, and they are willing to work with you and not just, you know, give you a bunch of fees, etc., because you are a little late. And so those are all the things I have about that. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Rodney H. Johnson, who is the director of the SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Center. They are funded some by the SBA as well as Tarrant County College. I believe I have that right, Rodney. Feel free to correct me. But without further ado, I'm going to give the floor over to Mr. Rodney Johnson.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Darryl. Thank you, Denise. We certainly appreciate the opportunity to partner with the Fort Worth Black Chamber as we try to disseminate as much information as we can out to the public, to our business, to our small business, to all of our constituents. We have cascaded this message as many times and as far as we can to as many small businesses, because it is very difficult to live in this environment and not experience some level, some form of economic injury. So what I am here to talk about is, from a small business perspective, what are your options and what options are being extended to you through the $2.2 trillion stimulus package that was signed into law on the 26th of last month. So let me go forward and share the screen. Hopefully everything is going to work fine. Here we go. So what this is dealing with, and I want you to know that coronavirus has really dominated our lives in more ways than one. I mean, they've dominated our personal lives. It seems as if there's hardly anyone who don't know someone who has been impacted or affected by someone who has either been diagnosed with COVID-19 or maybe even who has passed. I think that the impact on our communities is definitely being felt and being seen. And what was forecasted early on was that the impact of COVID-19 would ultimately have an impact on small businesses, which are a vital part to the heartbeat of our economy. And when we look at the fact that over 95% of our economy is driven by small businesses, and 98% of our employment come through small business channels, the government was very wise in order to try to protect our economy and by making sure that the small businesses were kept as intact as possible. With that being said, as often as we're getting updates about through the news channels about what's happening in the society, there are as many updates taking place with relative to small businesses and resources that are being made available. Information changed as late as last night and will change again tonight concerning tomorrow. So this has been an ongoing effort to try to keep everybody up to date and informed. So with that being said, the $2.2 trillion was actually broken up into major buckets. It's the CARES Act 2020, HR 748 was the actual bill that was signed into law by President Trump. Major big buckets of that bill included the individual direct payments. Darryl was just talking about the ability to go and get an additional $600 for unemployment. That's coming out of this bucket here. Large company assistance in the form of major industries like the airline industry or the cargo industry or the hotel industry. The funding that they would receive would come out of a set aside $400 billion that was set aside for them. There's assistance in there to support our healthcare industry. As we all know, the real enemy in this is the breaking of the back of our healthcare community. The strain that is placed on our hospitals, on our nursing centers, on our medical professionals, on all of our frontline medical people and personnel, that is actually what is breaking down and making coronavirus even that much more critical. Then you also have small business assistance. Small business assistance is what I'm here to talk about today. That is the area of focus that I and many others are focused on. So I'm here to talk about, what exactly is the small business assistance that's being extended to every small business by the federal government. The small business assistance is actually broken down into two major categories. One of them is what is known as EIDL. And what EIDL stands for is Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Very few industries globally, or even you can come down and say nationally, or even statewide, but definitely within the county, have not been impacted by the EIDL, have not had some level of economic injury. So economic injury has actually been the vehicle that the government has put in place to provide two different types of loans. One of them, and I'm going to go into both of them in detail, but one of them is a loan itself, and the other one is actually a grant. On the other side of the aisle, we have what's called the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. It is actually a program that is dubbed a 7A program, which is a very common, very typical program and product that the SBA has been using for years to support small businesses. But in addition to their traditional support, they are now extending and offering a bridge loan, as well as SBA debt relief, as well as the Paycheck Protection Program itself. I would like to just take a second to kind of highlight the differences between the economic injury disaster loan and the Paycheck Protection Plan. The use of the loans. Okay, first of all, on the economic injury disaster loan, the loan can be used for sole purpose of covering your operating expenses, such as your salaries, mortgages, insurance, and other debt obligations. Under the Paycheck Protection Plans, the intent is to cover many of the same things. So those two are parallel in that regard. The maximum loan amount under the EIDL is $2 million per business. For the Paycheck Protection Program, it's $10 million per business. Who is eligible? Well, as late as Friday evening of last week, religious organizations are now eligible. So churches are now eligible to apply for the EIDL. They're also eligible for applying through small businesses and businesses that have under 500 employees. Now, who's not eligible? If you are in the agricultural industry, if you are a farmer or grower, there are additional subsidies that are coming to you and being made available through the USDA. From the Paycheck Protection, again, the same criteria. So those who are eligible for the EIDL are also eligible for Paycheck Protection. Here's where it starts to differentiate the terms of the loan. So under economic injury disaster loan, the term of the loan or the length of the loan is around 30 years. If it's a small business, the interest rate is around 3.75. If it is a nonprofit, the interest rate is a 2.75% interest rate. For the Paycheck Protection, the term of the loan or the length of the loan is 2 years. The interest rate on the loan, and to show you how it's changed, it started off at 4%, it dropped all the way down to 0.5%, and it is now finally resting at 1%. So today, if you go and apply, the term would be 2 years and 1%. How you apply for these various loans are different. The economic injury disaster loan, you can only apply online through the SBA website or through the SBA portal. The Paycheck Protection Program, the only way to apply is you must use one of the approved vendors by the SBA, whether it is a bank, a credit union, or if it's a micro lender or a CDL. The only way to get those funds is to go through one of those entities. You cannot go to the SBA and get a Paycheck Protection Program loan. The funds are dispersed for economic injury through the SBA. For Paycheck Protection, it comes through that lender, through that bank, or whoever you made your application with. Under economic injury, if your loan is over $200,000, collateral will be required. For the Paycheck Protection, there's no collateral required. Neither one of them will require any fees to apply. So that is purely a no harm, no foul. If you don't even think, and this is what we've been advising clients for a couple of weeks, even if you think your credit is poor or you don't have a case, you should still apply. You don't know, the criteria has been loosened so much that you may just apply. The penalties, there's no penalty to pay down the loan early with either one of these. Now, with economic injury disaster loan, your first payment, including principal and interest, will be deferred for 1 year. So you don't have to worry about making any payments back on that loan for 1 year. And under the Paycheck Protection, it will range from anywhere from a minimum of 6 months deferral to a maximum of 1 year. All right, so let's talk about the EIDL in a little bit more specifics. First of all, they're going to review your application for just a few things. The primary two things that they're going to look for is credit worthiness and your ability to repay the loan. Note that it is a loan. Note, this is not a gift, it is a loan. So they're very interested in knowing that if you take if they take a look at your previous history, if you had a profitable business, and if you were doing well, then they're going to use that as an indicator for how well you're going to recover and going forward. But if your business was struggling before, if you were unprofitable before, if you were behind on paying your taxes, be it the state taxes or sales taxes or payroll taxes or whatever, if you were behind, then they're going to really scrutinize whether or not they're going to give you a loan. The other thing is they're going to look at your credit worthiness. They're going to pull your FICO score, whether it's TransUnion or whomever, and they're going to evaluate that. They will assign a case manager to you, and that person is going to walk with you throughout the entire process of your application. The maximum you can get out of an EIDL is $2 million. And say, for instance, I'm going to give you an example. If you own a franchise and you had 3 of those buildings located out there and they were all housed under your corporate headquarters, the maximum you could get is $2 million. Now, if you had 3 different businesses with 3 different EIN numbers, with 3 different DBAs, and DBA is not the determining factor, but you paid taxes off of 3 different businesses separately, then you could apply for a separate loan for each of those businesses. In the EIDL, there's a provision for a $10,000 grant. And what this $10,000 grant is intended to do is to just bridge you until you can get your economic injury disaster loan. And the reason that is even in place is because it will take 2 to 3 to maybe 4 weeks to get your loan through the SBA system. In the meantime, if you qualify, they're going to give you a $10,000 loan. And the goal is to try to get you that loan within 3 days. And the fact of that loan is that it will not have to be repaid. Very key point. That loan, that $10,000 loan, the intended purpose, the express purpose, is for you to use it on your business. From an EIDL, other considerations. First of all, there's no obligation, there's no penalties if you do not take the loan. You can apply for the loan, but if you choose later on that you choose not to take it, there's no penalty or obligation to doing so. After you receive the loan, you can ask for additional funds. If you originally find out, or if you find out later on that your request was not sufficient, you can go back to them and request additional funds. If you refuse a loan, okay, if you are refused the EIDL loan, meaning your EIDL loan was denied, you can reapply within 6 months of that original application. Say, for instance, they denied you because you didn't have one particular document. Well, if you go get that document that they're looking for, then you can reapply and they will reconsider. Okay, the amount is calculated for the loan, not by you. It's not an amount that you get to calculate. They will take all of the data that you input on the application online, and then the case manager will review that, and they will tell you based off of your information how much you qualify for. Finally, and this is very, very important, because this has been a source of contention amongst a lot of people who filled out their application for the EIDL early on. So if you filled it out prior to March 30th, you are encouraged to go and fill it out again. And here is why. Prior to March 30th, there were a number of process issues that had not been resolved. There was a number of computer issues that had not been resolved and computer glitches. Some applications may not even have been completely accepted. So what they're asking is, if when you filled out your application before March 30th, if you didn't get a 10-digit application number, which is like a serial number for your application, if you did not get that number, then you certainly need to go back in, go to the website and reapply. Even if you did get the number, you're encouraged to go back to the website and reapply for this one reason only. Inside of the application that's been put out there since March 30th is the button or the checkbox that allows you to say, yes, I want the $10,000 grant. And so the only way to do that is you've got to go through this application that was posted on Monday, March the 30th, okay? All right, let's talk about Paycheck Protection, the PPP. First of all, this is intended for employers to try to maintain and retain their employees. That's what this loan is all about. If you look at the name of it, it is Paycheck Protection Program. It's a program, it's a product to help you keep your workforce in place. Another factor for you to remember is that when the coronavirus challenge has passed and we are trying to kickstart our economy, if you already have, excuse me, your team in place and your employees are ready to go, your ability to get back up and running and reigniting the economy is much more higher than if you had let all of your people go and now you have to start that whole process all over again. So what the government is trying to do is to get you to hold on to your employees by subsidizing their payroll. So who qualifies? If you have full-time and part-time employees, they qualify for this program. If you have 1099 employees, effective this coming Friday, there will be a different application to fill out for 1099 employees. The period of coverage for this particular PPP loan is from February the 15th to June the 30th. Here's how you calculate, and this is what you do have to calculate. If you look at a previous period, and let's say, for instance, that period is 2019. So for a 1-year period of time, if you go in and you calculate all of your monthly payroll costs during that one period of time, and you divide it by 12, you will now have your average monthly payroll costs. You take whatever that number is and you multiply that number by 2.5, you will then have what your projected loan amount would be. Excuse me. You take your average monthly cost and you multiply it by 2.5. Now you have your average monthly payroll cost. The loans, nobody's loan, no company's loan will exceed $10 million. There are some things that are not allowed in this calculation. And then there are some things that are allowed. But let's go over what you do not include in the calculation. If you have an employee who makes over $100,000 annually as their income, you can only include up to $99,999 in the formula. If they make over that amount, the amount over the $99,999 cannot be included in the calculation. Payroll and income taxes cannot be included. If you have an employee who lives outside of the United States and that's their primary residence, they can't be included. And then there are other sick leaves and family medical leaves which are not included. And also, if you are receiving credit as a business under the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, you cannot include those numbers. There's no double dipping for the programs that are being offered. You either get it in one program or the other, but you can't get it in multiple. And we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. The amount of forgiveness. Let's talk about the amount of forgiveness. So if you apply for this Paycheck Protection Program and you're able to adhere to the goal of the Paycheck Protection Program, and you're able to follow the rules for this program, the loan is eligible for forgiveness. Here's how that works. If say for instance, you apply for this loan, and I'm going to make up a date here. Say for instance, you apply tomorrow with your bank. Tomorrow is April the 8th. And if you make your application, if by tomorrow they come back and they said, your company XYZ is approved, well, your loan origination date would be April the 8th. So it's the date that they put your papers together, the day they put your notes together, that would be your loan origination date. That's also the date that the clock starts ticking. So from April the 8th until June the 8th, that is an approximate 8-week period of time. The federal government is going to want to know, number one, on April the 8th, how many employees did you have? And let's just say, for instance, for the sake of an example, that if you had 10 employees, then when they come back to June the 8th, some 8 weeks later, they're going to ask you, how many employees did you have? And if you still have the 10 employees, then you will have met the goal that qualifies you for loan forgiveness, and this paycheck protection loan would be forgiven. Okay? There are some additional things that I want to make sure that you understand. There are some things that go into the calculation for this paycheck protection program. All payroll costs can be included in the payroll cost into the paycheck protection loan. Any interest on real or personal property mortgage, and that's interest only, can be applied, provided that that was in place prior to or before February the 15th. Your rent, if you have rent or under a lease agreement that was in place before February the 15th, then those numbers can be included. Any utility payments, including electricity, gas, water, transportation, telephone, internet, for service, or any other services that you utilize to run your business, not your household, that you utilize for the business portion of your expenses, as long as they was in place prior to February 15th, they can be included. If the business has employees who earn tips as part of their wages, and the business may receive some forgiveness for any additional wages that was paid to those employees. If the borrower rehired your workers that have already been laid off, and this is very critical. So say, for instance, you've already made a managerial decision, and because of the economy, you laid your employees off to cut your expenses. If you rehire them within 30 days from, I want to say, March the 26th is when this CARES Act was signed into law by President Trump. From March 26th until approximately April 26th, if you rehire your workers between that time, then you're eligible for the forgiveness. The goal here is to try to keep your workforce in place, okay? If you do that, you will not be penalized or have the loan forgiveness reduced by the reduction of employees or reduction in payments to employees, so long as workers are on board before June the 30th. I'll explain that later. Any loan amounts that are not forgiven at the end of 1 year is carried forward for a maximum term of 2 years and a maximum interest rate of 1%. Let me restate that. So say, for instance, if we go back to our example, where we had a company that started a loan, and the loan was originated on April the 8th, June the 8th. If you did not have the 10 employees, which was in the example, and say, for instance, you only had 5 because you had managerial decisions that you needed to make. If you only had 5, then you're only going to receive 50% of the reduction. That other 50% is going to turn into a loan that's going to have a 2-year term on it and a 1-year interest rate. Now, the other part of this is, and this last line here, is for your good, but it's also mainly for those who are the bankers and the lenders who are going to be processing these loans. They're 100% guaranteed by the SBA, okay? The borrowers can qualify for small businesses loans, and they will be eligible for only those portions of their loans forgiven for the amount spent during an 8-week period of time. Again, payroll costs, interest on the mortgage, rent payments, utility payments, all are inclusive. There are certain limits on the amount of forgiveness, okay? Amounts in excess of principal on the loan will not be forgiven. So if you have a loan, you're not going to be forgiven for more than what that loan was. That's not going to happen. Forgiveness will be reduced proportionally by any reduction in the employees retained compared to 1, either a year ago, or 2, between January 1st and February 29th of this year. Number 3, forgiveness will be reduced proportionally by any reduction in the pay of an employee beyond 25%. So if you reduced your employees' wages by more than 25%, then understand this here, that will impact the amount of forgiveness that you will receive. And as stated earlier, employees who make over $100,000, any amount over $100,000 is not included in this. And then finally, 75% or more forgiveness of the loan needs to be in the payroll cost. This is primarily payroll costs. There are other things that can be included, but the majority of this is to cover payroll costs, okay? A business obtaining a PPP will not be able to use the payroll tax credits under the Family's First Coronavirus Act. There's no double dipping. Nor if you have a deferral of an employee side Social Security payroll tax under the CARES Act, there's no double dipping. Here is very critical information. You can apply for both an EIDL as well as paycheck protection. What is critical? Remember, the EIDL has a maximum value of $2 million. The paycheck protection has a maximum value, a maximum loan amount of $10 million. Here is what is absolutely critical. The expenses that you use in one loan cannot be duplicated in the next loan. So I'm going to say that again. What expenses you use in one cannot be included in the other. They will consider that double dipping. But if you use both of them appropriately, paycheck for paycheck and EIDL for the rest of your business, you can pretty much qualify for both of these loans and receive resources under both of the loans. There is a third product out there. It's called SBA Debt Relief. And in short, what it is saying, if you are a current 7A loan recipient, then what the government is going to do is going to defer. No, let me repeat that. Let me correct that. They are going to pay 6 months worth of your principal and interest for you. So if you are a current 7A loan recipient, the SBA will pay the principal and interest for a 6-month period. Now, if you are a new 7A loan recipient, they're going to pay that for a year, okay? For current SBA service disasters, home and business, if your disaster loan is in regular servicing status on March the 1st, the SBA is providing automatic deferments through December the 31st, all right? Another product, and I think this is next to the last, so we're almost done. The SBA Bridge Loan is another product that the SBA has provided. It is a $25,000 bridge loan. Again, the intent is to try to tie you over in a short period of time. They're going to provide you up to a $25,000 loan. It is a loan. It is debt. The terms on it will be 7 years. The interest rate is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, prime plus like 6%. This particular loan expires on September the 30th of this year, and the loan will be repaid in full or part by the proceeds of the EIDL loan. This loan is again made through SBA approved lenders that are already doing bridge loans. And eligible small businesses must please ignore that last sentence. That requirement has been waived. Because of the volume of traffic dealing around PPP, Wells Fargo has had to back out of the whole loan business. And that is in part because of some earlier challenges that they had. And so therefore, Wells Fargo is not participating in this program. However, what the government has done is that they have pretty much opened up the loan lender processing side of the house to all of those entities and institutions that are in good standing. So, federal credit unions, CDLs, banks, small banks and trusts, they're all now helping to process this flood of loans that's coming into the SBA from around the United States, okay? If you need information about any of the information that I've shared with you, feel free to reach out to us. We are located at tarantsbdc.org. Again, my name is Rodney Johnson, but I am only the director. There is a great team behind us who are spending days and nights trying to help our other clients navigate their way through the PPP as well as the EIDL or the bridge loan or the $10,000 grant or the express loan throughout any of these. So in order to allow us to help you, I will tell you, we have very simple requirements. That you contact us, that you fill out a form, that you allow us to help you. There's no charge because we are, number one, we are grant funded by the Small Business Administration. We also sponsored and funded by the state of Texas, excuse me, by the state of Texas and Tarrant County College. Excuse me. Our phone number where we can be reached is 817-515-2603. 817-515-2603. And Daryl, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Rodney, thank you. I appreciate all of that great information that you gave us. We do have a number of people in the, I guess, in the chat box, and the one question that I saw on here that they would like for you to answer, probably maybe even go back over the 1099 employees again and how that relates. I think that was a little confusing. I think sometimes people feel like, well, if they're a 1099, they're really not a quote unquote employee for real. And they just would like for you to kind of run through that again.
Well, let me speak to it because I don't have a slide on it. I will tell you that what we have advanced knowledge of is that on the 10th of this month, another product, in 3 days, another product is going to come out whereby the 1099 employees will be accounted for. Currently, we thought that we were given information initially that 1099 employees would be covered under the PPP program. Since then, there's been a change in the approach, and what they're now saying is 1099 will have a separate process that will be in effect effective this coming Friday. So my best information for you is kind of stay tuned and let's see what the official information is that we get from the government.
So meaning that the 1099, you're expecting maybe they will apply on their own separately from the business?
Yes, and that is the construct of what we're hearing. But in this day and time, I don't want to go out on a limb and say that is for certain, but more than likely, and it makes sense, it stands to reason that that's what they're going to do. But again, on Friday, they should unveil, if not before Friday, unveil what contract employees or 1099 employees, what the process is going to be to help make sure that they continue to receive compensation or checks or support during this coronavirus.
So Glenda has a question and she says, if you have filed for the EIDL and have received the 10-digit confirmation number, how and who do I follow up with?
Okay, so there's two things here. One of them is, and again, information I've learned today, okay? If you file for the EIDL and you have a 10-digit number, and if the beginning of that number is 2, then you file actually before March 30. If you have an EIDL number and that number begins with 3, then what you filed with the latest process, you file through the portal, you file using the latest application. So look at your application number, see whether it begins with a 2 or 3, and from there, then you'll know whether or not you need to go and apply. If you have a 2, you may need to go back and reapply through the portal that is currently there at SBA.gov. There are 800 numbers, and I don't have them with me, but there is on the SBA.gov website a customer service number that you can call, particularly if you have your 10-digit number, and you can ask them for the status of your loan, of your package, and they'll be able to give you the status. Most of the people who have those numbers, and that number indicates that your package was received by the Small Business Administration. The current status of that would be that they are, it is in process. But there's a couple of things that will help you as your process matures through the process. Sorry, that didn't make sense. As your application goes through the process. One of them is that you're going to be assigned a case analyst. Somebody's going to be assigned to your case. So when that comes out, I'm sorry, I see it right here, 800-659-2955. 800-659-2955 is the number to the federal government, to the SBA. Thank you, Kim, for that, for where you can make a phone call and try and find out what the status is. But when you get a case manager assigned to your application, obviously you'll have their contact information and you can contact them directly. Otherwise, you can just contact the SBA customer service at the number that I just called off and find out about the status of your application.
All right, there's several more questions. The one before that was from Andre McEwen. He said, is there a list of SBA lenders in the city of Fort Worth?
The answer to that is yes. Yes. So in our SBA resource guide called Small Business, in almost the center of the book, we have a list of lenders who are approved, and it is by city. Now, additionally, we can help you out in 2 other ways. You can go to the SBA.gov and look up resources. And there you will also find a list of approved lenders. Our office, if you would to contact the SBDC, we are also putting together a list. We have a list that we probably have about 90% together of those lenders who are not requiring that you have had a previous relationship with them. And they are actively taking on new applicants and creating new relationships and are helping people to process their PPP loans or their express bridge loans, through their system. So 1 or 2 things, you can go and get it off of the SBA. If you have one of our resource guides, you can get it out of that. But certainly feel free to contact our office, become one of our clients. We'll be happy to share with you all of that information, as well as walk you through this process. The SBDC is here to walk you through the process, to help you recover as quickly as possible and to be in the best position to grow your business when this coronavirus passes.
All right, so we have a question on our Facebook Live. This question is from Lee Sharon Holland. They're asking, how much revenue does a business have to make each year to qualify for the grant?
Okay, first of all, to qualify for the grant, the only thing that's classified as a grant is the $10,000 grant. And in order to get the $10,000 grant, you must just go in and fill out the EIDL application. You provide them whatever information you have. And here is honestly the best information I can tell you. Just apply. You may be surprised at what is being accepted and what is being rejected. The terms are being very, very relaxed at this time. And so I don't think there is a floor or a threshold. And certainly if it is, that is something within the SBA website. They know what those thresholds are. They've not shared that with us. We don't know. So there's no cost for the application. It doesn't cost you a dime to apply for the application. So by all means, just go and apply and see what happens. And the application, by the way, I'm told is taking 15, 20 minutes tops. It's 3 pages.
Right. I had a member who she filled it out so fast she wasn't sure she did the right thing.
Yep. Yep.
So we have another question.
If you
go ahead.
Let me just stick this in here, Darryl, because that's a very critical point. If you spend an hour pulling all of your paperwork together, pulling your numbers together, if you have your previous year P&L or your balance sheet, if you have all your numbers together, at the point when you sit down and you are filling out your application, it'll go like that. There's one other point that I want to make, and that is that as you're going through the PPP, as you're going through the EIDL, utilize the resources that are on your team. Meaning that if you have a CPA or if you have an accountant or if you have a member in-house who's handling all of your finances or whatever, if you have a lawyer, pull your team members together to make sure that you as a team are in agreement with what you're presenting forward. That will help you also be prepared.
Awesome.
All right. So another question.
Yes.
We have one from Jacqueline Trailer. She says, "Hi, I'm Chef Jackie Brown. I just purchased an empty food truck. Weeks before all of this happened, what loans will be best for me to apply to complete my food truck so I can continue with my business?" You said just apply to both of them, correct?
I would apply to both of them. The critical piece here is February 15th. So if before February 15th you had acquired that, then you actually had expenses. If you had started the process and maybe you had gone as far as to start buying equipment or start buying, your internet so you can run your swipes and all of that, whatever it is, if you had expenses prior to February 15th and you can back all of that up, then apply. There's no harm, no foul. There's no loss to it. So I would encourage you to apply.
Okay, there's another one.
And
Go ahead.
Got one?
Go ahead.
And Monica wanted to know, she's looking at the CARES Act. I think she's talking about the PPP, but it's a loan specific to payroll and could be forgiven. So she wanted to know if they accept a CARES loan, can they still apply for another SBA loan? And I'm thinking she means besides 7A or something else is out there that she's looking at doing.
So the short answer to that is yes. The Paycheck Protection Program, the EIDL, the $10,000 grant, the Express loan, and including the 7A loan itself and other SBA products you can apply for all of it. But here's where you need to be careful. When you think about the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Plan, and you have the EIDL, be very careful not to replicate expenses on both of them. So if you have it on one, you can't use them on the other. So, but yes, you can apply. That's the beauty of these programs. They're encouraging you to apply to multiple.
Okay, and then Keith, he said he applied a week ago and he hadn't heard anything back. First of all, he wanted to know, has anybody been approved? And I could give him the answer, yes. But I think he's really looking for himself. He applied a week ago and I don't think he's heard anything back. So he wants to probably know what to do next. He has the 10-digit confirmation number.
So again, there's a couple of things. He can use the 800 number to call in. I think it's 866 number. He can use that 866 number to call in and find out, especially since he has the 10-digit loan application number. He can use that number to call in and find out what the status is. And by the way, let me make this suggestion. If you're going to call customer service, the very least you might want to ask them is, has a case manager been applied to my application? Okay, because they may be able to give you information, but if a case manager has been applied, then now you're able to go and get more direct information from a specific individual. At this point, I just want to draw the picture out like this. Typically, when you have a previous disaster that is sponsored by the federal government, say for instance, a tornado hit Tulsa, it only is going to hit a small community inside of Tulsa. They typically would deploy an army of people to go and try and help Tulsa get back up to speed as quickly as possible. Imagine that now Tulsa is the entire entity of the United States, the District of Columbia, and all of the territories surrounding. That's the size and magnitude of this. So when you make your application, you know, the government wasn't necessarily in position to receive what is amounting to millions and millions of applications. So information may not be readily available, but the fact that you got a number is a huge step in the right direction. So there are a lot of people out there applying, and we're encouraging even more because the way the government is processing it is what we call FIFO. First in, first out. First in, first out. So if you don't make an application, you're going to be the last one to get in line. And whatever comes of that is, you know, kind of what comes of that.
Oh, by the way, Keith he says his confirmation number starts with 3. Because I think you mentioned 2 and 3.
Then he's in great shape. What that means is that he's already in line for the $10,000 grant, and his application is under consideration for the EIDL loan. So he's in a great place.
Good.
All right. Another question on our Facebook Live comes from Pat Wiley Spence. He says, how does this work for landlords? I've missed it.
Okay, so what I'm gonna ask you to do, Pat, is to give me a call. I need to go and do a little research on that one. So if you would call our office at 817-515-2603 and give me a little bit of time, I'll go do some research on landlords. And I would like to give you the right answer. I don't want to just make up an answer. I don't have that answer right off of the top of my head. But if you would give our office a call, give me a little time to do some research, I'll find out for you.
Wonderful, thank you. Andre, there's a couple more questions. Andre McEwen asks, what is the estimated length of processing time to fund the EIDL? Okay,
so the $10,000 grant, which is inside of the EIDL, they had a goal of 3 days. We're understanding that it's taking longer, that it's probably taking about a week for them to process that. The goal for the overall EIDL is approximately 2 to 3, maybe at this point, 4 weeks, which is why that $10,000 would help to bridge that. And then the one you didn't ask about, but the PPP, when you go in and you sit down and you talk to your lender, they accept your application. They put it in their system. They put it through whatever process they have, whether it goes before a loan committee or whatever that individual institution's loan process is. And typically that's going to be within a day or a couple of days or maybe a few days. That's how long it's going to take, because when they approve your loan, those funds should be available almost immediately thereafter.
All right, so last question is from Glenda. The application says the application asked for bank and routing numbers. How does this play into the equation?
They want to know where to deposit your money. So if they give you $10,000, they want to know where do they deposit it. And so your banking, your routing number is the vehicle and the way that they would go and do that.
So they're not cutting checks?
What I've heard is that they are doing direct deposit. They want you to have the money as quickly as possible. Cutting checks, number one, might add another week and a half to the process. They want you to have this money as quickly as possible. Your business depends on it. Number one. Number two, if you have a banking relationship, then you have a checking account and a business account, and so therefore you should have something to deposit it into. Number three, if you don't have a banking relationship, then that might send up a red flag as to how you're doing business.
All right. Well, thank you. That was. Go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah. So Felicia posted this, and this is just what she's always interested in, and that is business owners need to make sure their business is active. And what she's referring to is if you have an LLC or a corporation, there is a document that you need to fill out each year. And if you have not filled out that document, then your business may become inactive or dissolved as far as the state of Texas is concerned. And so if you apply and they go in to look at your loan and you're in that status, you're going to get denied because your business does not exist. So
that is a great point. I would also highlight this here. Please don't, everybody is, as we used to say, bending over backwards to try to accommodate small businesses. So they're telling you we're going to defer your loans. They're telling you don't have to make payments right away. Even the state of Texas, as you said, Daryl, has come out with edicts that said if you owe us sales tax money, call us, just let us know and we'll work with you. So if you are behind in terms of filing your reports, for your LLC or for your S Corps or for whatever, C Corps or whatever, or you haven't collected your monthly minutes or quarterly minutes or whatever, now is the time to get all of that into place, because Daryl and Felicia are absolutely right. If and when that day comes that they are trying to get the paperwork caught up with the transactions and they come and they ask you for data to support the money they gave you, you need to have your ducks in order. You need to have your act together. So by all means, be legitimate, have a legitimate business, conduct business legitimately, and you will sleep better at night. So do the filings, handle the business, and some of the stuff is beyond our control, but some of the stuff is well within our control.
Right, and I think she's saying if you haven't major filings, the annual filings that you need to, that you go into an inactive status or some such, and so you may be denied because your business, in essence, doesn't exist.
Well, I don't have an answer because it's going to be on the individual business to business. I will tell you if you're years behind, or if you're a couple of years behind, that could be a predicament. But again, don't take any chances. File your paperwork.
Yep, exactly. I don't see anything else. You see anything else in the chat box, Denise?
No, I think we answered all the questions on the chat and on the live. I just want to thank Mr. Rodney Johnson from the SBDC for coming in as our expert on the matter. You answered a lot of great questions, went over a lot of great material that I know that our members needed. So we want to thank you so much. Thank you everybody that joined us today. If you all have any more questions, just let us know. You can email us. I put mine and Daryl's email in the chat. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and email us or message us on Facebook. Like I mentioned before, if you aren't already following us on our social medias, our social media handles are FW Black Chamber. We're putting out a lot of great information all the most of the updates that we see pertaining to the matters that we just went over. Just make sure that we're keeping y'all updated. Make sure to subscribe to our newsletter and our mailing list so that you're getting these updates through the email. And again, we do have a COVID-19 page on our website with the blog. So if you have questions pertaining to anything, or if you need a certain link for something, check out our website, because more than likely it's on there. Or just give us, send us an email. If you have any more questions for Mr. Johnson, he provided you his information. And yeah, so if there's nothing else, I think that would be it for today.
All right.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to just come and share information. What the SBDC does, we don't take it for granted that we work for the people. We're paid by the grants from the Small Business Administration. So we work for you. These are your dollars at work, and we stand ready to serve our community. And we want to see our small community, our Tarrant County community, our small businesses be ultra successful. That's all. That's the reason we're here.
Well, thank you so much.
Awesome. We look forward to continuing to serve you. We work at this every day on your behalf. So just continue to contact us. Look on our webpage, look on our Facebook page for information. Be involved with us so that we can be involved with you, because truly we have your best interest at heart.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day. All right, bye-bye.